Important messages that we're going to continue to get throughout the month from different voices as we celebrate Youth Month in South Africa. That very important time in the time of South Africa when we remember that protest in 1976. But in current day South Africa, just reminding us to have more conversation and deeper conversation about issues affecting young people in South Africa. The defense lawyer of 4 of the accused in the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial is expected to wrap up cross-examination of the first state witness, Sergeant Thabo Mosia, when the matter resumes in the High Court in Pretoria today. Mosia spent the better part of yesterday in the witness box being grilled about the possible contamination of the crime scene where the star goalkeeper was gunned down in Vosloorus, southeast of Johannesburg, at the mother's home of his girlfriend, Khumalo, in 2014. Defense counsel Malesela Teffo told the court he would bring evidence that contradicted the state's version of where Meyiwa died, as well as that the weapon used to shoot him. Chriselda Lewis is standing by to bring us the latest. Chriselda, we were expecting the defense attorney for accused number 5 to also start cross-examining, but of course this has been held back by other matters. What can we expect today?
Well, Desiree, you were correct in your intro there. What we were expecting is that Advocate Malesela Teffo will spend about 10 minutes this morning to conclude his cross-examination of forensic detective Thabo Mosia. Before then, after that, you will have the legal representative for accused number 5, Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who will continue or will begin her cross-examination of Thabo Mosia. And indeed, Desiree, much of the focus yesterday put on whether the crime scene had been contaminated back in 2014. As you correctly point out, one of the bones of contention here is that the defense is adamant that Senzo Meyiwa did not pass away when he arrived at the hospital that he was taken to by some of the individuals who were inside the house when the shooting took place. What he contends is that according to a second docket, for example, you'd remember, Desiree, that was also introduced to this court, the defense contends that those that were in the house on the day of the shooting, the 7 people, including his girlfriend Khumalo, the sister, as well as Longwe Twala and others, that they should be the ones to come here and answer to charges relating to murder as well as defeating the ends of justice, basically labeling those that are here today, that have been charged rather for Senzo Meyiwa's murder, as scapegoats in this particular matter. Questions raised as well about the firearm, the 9mm, which has been put forward as the firearm that was used allegedly to kill Senzo Meyiwa. That also questioned in this particular matter yesterday. So what we're expecting today is that Advocate Zandile Mshololo is likely also to focus on the concession that was made by Thabo Mosia, who was the forensic detective who was first on the scene there where Senzo Meyiwa was killed. He had gathered evidence as well as taken photographs of the scene at the time. But recall, he says he had gone to the hospital first. When he received a telephone call about what had transpired, he did not even have an address of where the crime scene was. He went to the hospital, he says, and found some police officers there who then took him to the crime scene, the primary crime scene, which would be the house where Senzo Meyiwa was called. The timing, how long it took him to get there, what did he find when he got to the crime scene, and a lot will be focused on that concession, Desiree, that I referred to just a few seconds ago. Remember, after long being adamant that he did not believe that there was any contamination of the crime scene, the primary crime scene, the house where Senzo Meyiwa was shot, he made a concession yesterday that he couldn't be for certain 100%, if I may, that scene had not been contaminated. So we're expecting Advocate Zandile Mshololo to focus quite extensively on that. That, of course, being offering a major concession, given that this is the first state witness to take the stand. And one of the key issues that will center around this is how the scene itself was treated. You would know that Advocate Malesela Teffo yesterday basically saying or accusing Mosia of wanting to cover up for police, how they bungled what had happened at the scene, and basically said he cannot be relied on for evidence in terms of what had taken place at the crime scene. So much of that we're expecting Desiree to focus on the concession that was made, when he got to the scene, how long it took him to get to the scene, but the contention that was made by the defense representing 4 of the accused, Advocate Malesela Teffo, is that Senzo Meyiwa died at the scene, at the primary scene, which is the house, and by the time he had been taken to the hospital, he'd already passed away. But this is now what Mosia had basically told the court yesterday, is that he had learned that Senzo Meyiwa had passed away from the officers at the hospital. So much focus being put on where exactly Senzo Meyiwa had died, because remember, the defense also yesterday accusing those of being who were in the house at the time, the 7 occupants of the house, of basically wanting to dump Senzo Meyiwa's body at the mortuary after he had passed away, relying heavily, of course, on that second docket that had been opened relating to this case. In that docket, the 7 occupants, Kelly Khumalo, her sister, Longwe Twala, and others, are basically the accused in this particular matter. That docket believes that those 7 people who were in the house are those who were supposed to be inside this court answering to charges relating to murder as well as defeating the ends of justice. So much focus on that we're expected here this morning once Advocate Zandile Mshololo begins her cross-examination of the forensic detective, and we're expecting this morning Advocate Malesela Teffo to spend about 10 minutes, and he will conclude his cross-examination of the state's first witness.
Chriselda, I'm going to ask you a subjective question. For a while now, the questioning style of Advocate Teffo has been a source of debate, just in terms of his credibility or his skills. This line of questioning that he adopted yesterday and the evidence he produced doesn't put him in a better stead or not? What's your sense?
Desiree, it will be very difficult to answer that question, precisely because I really don't think at this point I would qualify as a legal expert, or perhaps, you know, someone from the bar would probably be able to answer that question a bit better in terms of his style of questioning. I know a lot that had been circulated. Remember the court of public opinion and the court of justice, if I may, what is taking place inside this court. You'll always have that kind of commentary that is taking place. You know, many, you would know that this particular case has captured the hearts and minds of many South Africans. For many years, they've wanted to know what exactly happened to Senzo Meyiwa. And there were, the sideshows that have happened in this case certainly have not contributed towards the thinking of the court of public opinion, if I may. Indeed, yes, Advocate Malesela Teffo is answering to another case unrelated to this particular matter, but this case is proceeding. I must tell you, Desiree, I have also received quite a number of messages from colleagues within the legal fraternity, possibly asking what do we think of his style of questioning. I don't think it would be fair for me to articulate on those aspects, and perhaps, you know, it would be interesting to get a legal expert to perhaps give more detail about what they think about his style of questioning. There's a lot much more that is at play here at the moment, because you must also remember Advocate Malesela Teffo has also maintained that he has also been threatened as a result of this case. The threatening of witnesses, a lot has been centered around allegations of possibilities, we don't know, of those who don't want to see this case reach its finality. I cannot give a commentary on that. Those are allegations that have not been tested and allegations that have been made, Desiree. But certainly, I must say, you are correct. There have been quite a number of murmurs in the corridors within the legal fraternity as well, where people have questioned. You would recall yesterday there was also, I can't repeat the word itself, but an F-bomb that was also used inside court. I know that there were quite a number of murmurs that were made pertaining to that, but I guess that would be best to answer by, legal practitioners about what they think of their colleague and how he has proceeded in terms of the line of questioning in this particular matter. But many have cautioned, Desiree, as we proceed with this particular trial, that with all these side shows that have been taking place, there is a family here at the end of the day that lost their loved one who are begging for justice to take place, and they're hoping that there isn't going to be any further delays in reaching or getting to the bottom or getting answers in terms of what really happened to Senzo Meyiwa and exactly who should be held to account. So absolutely, Desiree, I agree with you. You are not incorrect in asking that question, but I think at this particular stage, those in the legal fraternity would know more in terms of dissecting further how their colleague has conducted himself within this trial.
Yeah. Chriselda, just in terms of time frames, what time do you expect proceedings to begin today?
At 10 o'clock this morning, Desiree, and we're not sure at this particular stage whether a second witness will be called, because you must remember that the 10 minutes that Advocate Malesela Teffo will spend finalizing his cross-examination of the state witness, the Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who is representing accused number 5, will then cross-examine. Then we're expecting re-examination as well, and I'm not sure how much time Advocate Zandile Mshololo will need. In fact, she is sitting right towards that direction there. I'm a bit too far to ask her in terms of how much time she will need. Advocate Mshololo, perhaps I could find out from you how much time you might spend this morning. Could I get a word? 2 hours, 3 hours? A day. All right, there you go. I'm quite lucky there, Desiree. Advocate Zandile Mshololo says a day, so I don't think we'll get to a second witness today.
Chriselda, of course, we'll be watching events as they unfold at the Pretoria High Court, covering that murder trial, the Senzo Meyiwa murder